back and forth behind us. They kind of are milling about this whole governmental campus, and they say that they will be here for as long as possible. Now, the protesters down by the Israeli parliament, they are forming human chains. They are being pushed back by Israeli police using water cannons. They say that they are trying to protect democracy, protect the Israeli parliament from this legislation. Now, what this legislation will do, it's one aspect of this massive judicial overhaul package that Benjamin Netanyahu's government has been trying to push through for months. But this specific legislation would strip away the Supreme Court's ability to stop government actions that the Supreme Court deems unreasonable. Now, proponents of this law say that it's necessary, that the Supreme Court overreaches, that there needs to be balance. But opponents of this, these protesters here, that this will give the government unfettered access to essentially do what they want. Because, guys, the Supreme Court here is essentially the only check on government power because of the parliamentary system and how it's set up. Adding to all of this drama right now, as these votes are expected to take place within the next few hours or so, is that the Prime Minister himself, Benjamin Netanyahu, has had his own major health issues. Over the weekend, he had essentially an emergency procedure to install a pacemaker after a heart monitor indicated a problem. He literally came straight from the hospital, essentially, to the Israeli parliament for these votes. That is the situation here right now, and he is indicating that he and his government will continue forward with these votes despite these protests, despite the thousands of Israeli military reservists who have said they will not heed the call to serve if this legislation passes. That causes major questions about Israel's military preparedness. It's obviously been a very tense time in this region, but they are pushing forward. This even after President Biden once again weighing in, the second time in a week, calling on Israeli leaders. He's saying it doesn't make sense for Israeli leaders to rush this. He says in a statement, the focus should be on pulling people together and finding a consensus. But we just heard from the former Prime Minister Yair Lapid, who's now opposition leader. He was speaking to the media in the Israeli parliament saying that consensus compromise talks so far have failed. The time is running out. The clock is ticking. These votes will be taking place. But even if these votes pass and the government has the votes to do so, they do have the majority. This will likely face an immediate challenge. And where will this be challenged, guys? In the Israeli Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court could be ruling on its own positions on whether it can declare something unreasonable. And if the government doesn't listen to that, then there could be a huge other political crisis here.